We're gonna have a TV party tonight. Alright! We're gonna have a TV party, alright! Tonight! We got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews. Everybody's gonna hang out here tonight! Alright! We'll pass out on the couch. Alright! Tonight! We got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews. Don't talk about anything else. We don't wanna know. We're dedicated to our favorite shows.
And tonight, our favorite show is Titans, brought to you by the good people at Berlanti Productions, DC Entertainment, Warner Brothers Television, and Weed Road Pictures. I am your host, the Band-Aider reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And joining me to talk Titans tonight, no, not the Tennessee Titans, but the DC Titans, Beast Boy, Robin, Starfire, and Raven. Ladies and gentlemen, the host of source material in his own right, the disapproving dad, the man that makes the Radulich and Broadcasting Network empire tick and move forward. He's the man. He's the old Jewish man behind the curtain pulling levers. Ladies and gentlemen, Jesse Starcher, how do you do, sir?
Well, I didn't expect to be Jewish today. That's for damn sure.
It sneaks up on you. I have to be honest. You never know. You never know when you're going to be Jewish.
No one expects the Jewish Inquisition. All
That's right.
So,
Good God.
so
it's a lot of haranguing. It's a lot of haranguing over tips and whatnot.
So anyway, you tell me. I'm going to be talking Titans. I got 2 words for you, Mark Radulich. What would those 2 words be?
Oh, fuck, Batman.
That's damn right, buddy. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, and that cute giggling you hear in the background is don't call her the token girl. She's a part of the Radulich and Broadcasting Network family. She's the Lord and Master of Honeysuckle Rose Creations. If you've got geek jewelry on the mind, she has a bridge she wants to sell you. Ladies and gentlemen, she's the girl who loves her corgi butts. It's Alexis Hayna. How do you do, madam?
I'm doing good. Glad to be here. Eddie's in the background here, ready to bark and interrupt again.
Fantastic. All right, so you're at home. You're doing your thing. You're singing a song, and you happen to catch on the interwebs that not only is DC Comics an extension of Warner Brothers doing their own streaming service, adding to the rising number of paid streaming services, but the anchor to this thing is that they're going to put on original content, starting with a Greg Berlanti produced Arrowverse-type Teen Titans live-action show. Jesse Starcher, your first reaction, aside from ugh, is what?
Well, I'm not hating on it. Have I seen the trailer?
No, you just
okay,
the information just falls into your lap and tickles your sack and says, okay, there's going to be a live action Titans with an Arrowverse aesthetic.
Okay. All right. Well, boy, if there isn't if there's a DC property that I'm most aware of when it comes to TV, other than what's on the CW itself, that's going to be the Teen Titans, because as I mentioned there on our show, or on my show, Source Material, a lot of what I know about the Teen Titans was from cartoons that my daughter had watched. So all of these, that's kind of what I had going through my head, was like, okay, well, I've seen the Teen Titans, but man, a live action Arrow-esque version of these guys. Problem was I hadn't read anything involving the Teen Titans, at least extensively. I've every once in a while I'd come across an issue here or there, and of course in the comic books, compare that to Teen Titans Go, it's a bit different. And especially I found that out recently when we did our coverage of the first 8 issues of Titans from 1980, New Teen Titans from 1980. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not particularly like, oh, man, I've got to rush out and get this app because the Titans are going to be on there. No, I that wasn't going to make me go and pay the money. And this being the flagship, I don't know. I mean, heck, you've got all sorts of other properties that you'd think they would hang their hat on. But, of course, as I've learned from many podcasts, including the ones right here on the network, there's rights issues. There's this, there's that, the other. So you can't exactly expect a Wonder Woman TV show. You can't expect a Batman TV show. You can't expect a Superman TV show. So I guess Titans is probably their best bet, to be honest, because it's got the most name recognition, and it's probably the one property that CW doesn't really have their hands all over. There you go. There's my thoughts, Mark.
Same question to you, Alexis. You're at home, you're making jewelry, you're petting dogs, life is good, and suddenly you catch over the interwebs. They're doing a DC Universe streaming service, and the anchor to this thing is a Arrowverse Titans show. And your first reaction is what?
Well, at least it's not Teen Titans Go.
Waka waka.
Are you not a fan of that show, or what?
No, okay. I actually have the original Teen Titans series on DVD. I love that show. I watched it like crazy when it was on Cartoon Network. I still watched it. I think it's great. I love the amazing, well, not amazing, but the really interesting animation style, kind of an interesting blend of classic Western and anime tropes. I think it's a lot of fun. I like it. And Teen Titans Go, for me, it's kind of the same argument I made about the Powerpuff Girls reboot. It's like a sugar-free cookie. They got the elements in there, but the parts that actually make it worth it, they skip.
Okay. All right, so does a live-action one make you go, okay, well, I'm interested? I mean, at least a little bit?
A little bit. The Titans is a large enough team that this would lead to a decent amount of spin-offs and other characters. I mean, there have been so many different characters that have been amongst the Titans. Mm-hmm. Even in this first season, we have seen the possibility for more spin-offs, more characters to be added and such.
So staying with you for a moment, and, when it comes to, toxic masculinity and or making sure that something resembles exactly the source material and having zero tolerance for anything that, that isn't 100% the source material. That's not you. You're pretty accepting of, of the powers that be sort of playing with the source material and doing different things. So with that said, I'm curious. Then they released the team picture, okay, of Garfield, what do you call it? The entire cast and basically in their Titans gear. Beast Boy, Raven, Robin in his Robin gear, and Starfire in her Streetwalker outfit.
Yeah.
So they dropped that picture, the one that everyone reacted to and the internet went fucking crazy over. And your reaction was what, Alexis?
Mostly my reaction was anger, and not at the picture at first. The anger was directed at other people who were freaking out because the actress playing Starfire was black, which was really annoying. It's like, I don't care that Starfire is played by a black actress. The character of Starfire has very dark orange skin, so, I think actually being played by a black actress is not that bad of an idea.
Jesse.
But the costumes really didn't settle well with me. I thought Robin looked okay. I'm not a huge fan of the whole Raven is automatically an emo thing that some creators do. And not gonna lie, when I saw Starfire's outfit, I just stared at it for a minute going, they had better give a damn good explanation why she's dressed like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me quick speak to the the issues with Starfire, because I remember making fun of it, but I don't care that she's black. I mean, that's the thing. Any ethnicity could have gone and they could have made play Starfire, considering the fact that Starfire should have been orange. That to me was the issue. It wasn't that she was black necessarily. It was that
she wasn't orange.
She wasn't orange. This character looked nothing like any version of Starfire that I'd ever seen. And then, why was she dressed like she was Pimp of the Year?
I think I had a bigger problem with her hair than her skin color. It was like, why the hell does she have tight, curly hair? I've never seen a picture of Starfire with, like, purposely curled. She's always had thick, crazy hair, but I don't think I've ever seen one with tight curls like that.
Raven looking like she robbed a Hot Topic. I mean, I was okay with that. And clearly they borrowed Robin's outfit from one of the Joe Schumacher Batman movies. That's fine. And then the other issue is Beast Boy isn't green. He has green hair. I was like, meh.
Yeah.
What was your reaction, Jesse?
I did not see the picture. I just heard everybody's reaction to it on podcasts and social media. So there were, just like both of you said, pretty strong reactions to what it was to what was shown. And most of what I had heard was their concerns about Starfire. So I wasn't invested enough into the Teen Titans to go, okay, this better be right. This better represent what I've read in the past. This better represent what I want. Just like you said, a 1-to-1 ratio of what I see on the paper showed up on the screen. I imagine there's quite a bit of effects to turn somebody orange. So I can probably give them some leeway in regards to that. And I wasn't taken out. I certainly didn't make me go, I'm not going to give this show a chance. It was interesting to see how they were going to make it work. If anything, I think a lot of people did not have enough faith in this cast and enough faith in the production crew and the director and all that to make this actually work. And that's unfortunate, because that's, you can't judge a book by its cover, literally and figuratively. So you see it, you can't just go and write it off. And boy, do we know quite a few people that do that.
And thinking through the years that Arrow has been on, and then The Flash, and just kind of sticking with those two shows, the two Arrowverse shows that have been on the longest, I can't think of a villain or another hero that's been on either one of those shows that I thought they did a bad job of. That I was like, oh, okay, television budget, got it. Mm-hmm. In all honesty, over the last, say, 10 years, I think the worst adaptation of any character I've seen on screen was Doomsday. And that was in a feature. That was in Batman v Superman. Where they made it look like, they made it look like used renderings of the Abomination from The Incredible Hulk.
I thought it was unused renderings of the cave troll from Lord of the Rings.
That too.
Yes. Yes. I was so unimpressed with Doomsday and that whole bit from that movie, but I know that's not what we're talking about tonight, so.
Seriously, we cannot get distracted by that. We'll never get back.
Even in Gotham, I think they do a halfway decent job of bringing a lot of Batman's rogues gallery to life. The fact that the fact that they brought his rogues gallery to life before they brought Batman to life is a whole other podcast. But so let's get into the show itself. So we saw the pictures, we saw the news that they were doing this, and now we've opted. Despite all of that, to sit down and watch this thing. I'm going to open it up to just initial reactions to the series in total, and then we'll kind of break things down into parts and kind of go back through it with a fine-tooth comb. Let me tell you that, for me, it was kind of like Venom for me. Hi, Alexis.
There you go again.
Starts off kind of slow and irritating, And when it ended, I was confused. And I was like, what? Wait, what? But the middle of it was actually not too bad. There was some stuff there in the middle of the series that really got my attention, and I felt like it had finally somewhat found its voice and its legs, and it kept me interested. But it took a little while to get there, and then by the time we got to the end, I'm not going to lie, I'm actually kind of excited for it, but that's only because of the cliffhanger ending. You know, overall, and I mentioned this on source material, I felt like I drew a comparison to Kevin Kline talking about cursing on HBO for the first time, you know, where, you know, they're given this platform and they kind of went for low-hanging fruit, you know, fuck Batman, with the cursing, and didn't really use it effectively. I also, despite the fact that they have the appearance of the nuclear family, and there is an episode where they fight the nuclear family, I never really got the same sense of this is a superhero show the way that I get from The Flash or Legends or Supergirl, you know, where you know, my reason for watching this is I want to see the comic book characters really come to life, and I want to be brought into that fantasy world. And while this almost felt like one of the Netflix Marvel shows, you know, like a Jessica Jones or something like that, where it's just this one long story, and you know that works to one degree or another. You know, your mileage may vary, as we like to say. It, for me, not enough of what make the Arrowverse shows fun, and too much of the relying on sort of the grit and anger of, you know, some of the worst parts of the Marvel Netflix shows, if you catch my meaning. I'll go to you first, Alexis. You demanded. You kicked down the doors here at the Rattlegion Broadcasting Network and said, I have things to say. So you watched the show, you have things to say, this is the time. What did you think overall?
There were 2 episodes that I enjoyed.
Ooh, wow.
The introduction to the Doom Patrol and the backstory on Hawk and Dove. Those were both very well done episodes. And I actually am interested in the Doom Patrol series because I like what they did with the characters. A little perplexed on what they were going with for Elastigirl's powers, but still intrigued. Then I don't know why, but I like Brendan Fraser doing the voice of Robot Man. That just works.
Oh. Are you going to stop there, or are you going to start laying into why you didn't like it?
Yeah, I was like, don't keep me in suspense. Go.
You can tell us why you hated it.
So I binged this whole thing in about 2 days, as I think I mentioned on our She-Ra TV party tonight, because I got the calendar screwed up and thought we were doing it back then. Well, after I got done binge watching, I put on Hulu, and there's an animated Teen Titans movie about the Judas Contract. Yes, thank you, Eddie. For those who don't know, that is the storyline with Terra, a geokinetic who is sent into the Titans by Deathstroke to infiltrate them and betray them from within. It's one of the most famous Teen Titans storylines. It was the subject of, I want to say, the 2nd season of the Teen Titans animated series. It's one of my favorite storylines. And I watched it and I realized why I didn't like the Titans live actions, why I hated it so much, was that I felt like they were teasing us and not following through enough with what they promised us. We get Dick Grayson trying to leave behind Batman, but then he keeps talking about how he's like Batman. We have Donna Troy, who has retired and is a photojournalist, But then we have Beast Boy and Raven starting to discover their powers, and I'm starting going, you guys cannot deliver on what you want. You're taking a few steps forward, and then you're taking a few steps back. You're not going far enough with these characters to give us what we really want, but you're not going into another direction enough to make it something new and different. I feel like I felt we were getting disappointed, and we are not given a good amount of either situation. You know, I don't want to see Donna Troy as a photojournalist. I want to see these Titans coming out with their powers. I want to see them fighting together. I want to see actual Titans as a team. I don't want to see what we got.
That's fair. And I think that's kind of what I was saying too, where, and I'll get to you in just in a second, Jesse, but I felt like on the one hand, they did a halfway decent job of telling the Raven story. On the other hand, I felt like it was at the expense of really giving us a cohesive Titans team. And it
felt like the series was focusing too much on Dick and on Rachel Raven.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like Corey and Gar were just side notes in their own thing, which is really annoying because Beast Boy is one of my favorite characters. I want to see more of him. And for the love of God, why the hell did they just have him turning into a tiger? I understand that there's a budget. I understand they can't make a ton of CGI animals. But why just a green tiger? It got so old.
Now, we'll talk about this at length in a few minutes, but I felt like, on the one hand, they were trying to give a lot of mystery to the Coriander character, and then it was like, there was a slow drip of mystery with her, and then they get to the episode where they're all revealing their powers, and then, there's a relationship, there's a fun relationship between Robin and Starfire that they could have, waited years to play on, and just, they could have just let the sexual tension between the two of them just rest there. Like, oh, will they, won't they? And it was like, it was like a child with ADD. It was just like, no, fuck now. Okay, sure. We're having a pizza party, as Patton Oswalt would say. So it was like, there's a lot of tonal and there's narrative problems with this where they can't figure out the pacing. That's the word I was looking for. There's a lot of tonal and pacing issues with this show that make it very jarring. Go ahead, Jesse.
Okay. Well, I certainly was not upset with this series. I actually really enjoyed myself watching what was going on. Now, there's a couple words that you used that actually I've found myself to be fond of, especially in some of the Marvel Netflix series, and that is gritty and brutal. And there was a lot of that throughout this series. I had a good time. You talk about pacing, and those concerns have been echoed from other podcasts that I've listened to that were talking about watching and experiencing this series. They said that some of it felt really slow and like it dragged, and then some of it was, really pretty fast paced. And why are they in bed right now? Wait a second, slow down. I didn't have those hang-ups. I don't know if it's just because I don't have much of a history with the Titans. Teen Titans Go was on my TV, but I wasn't sitting down watching it. That was, me catching it in passing with my daughter watching it. So I didn't have a lot of those hang-ups, and I was more excited about some of the action that we were getting on the screen. Yeah, Beast Boy not turning into anything but a tiger. I chalked that up to kind of like, okay, well, he's kind of, I'd assume he's learning his powers, although it seems like he's pretty comfortable, or maybe he just feels like, okay, well, I can't turn into anything but a tiger, and maybe he'll learn to do that later. Robin dealing with that darkness inside of him, I like that aspect. Corey's character, Sunfire, I dug most of what was being presented to me. And then we get the stuff that was peppered in. All those DC I wouldn't call them Easter eggs because they were just, straight out there, like the Doom Patrol. Oh my goodness. Everybody was excited about that when they showed up. And then, Jason Todd. We had quite the spoiler Facebook post by one of our buddies here on the Rattle Ship Broadcasting Network that set things afire. But that right there was an epic reveal to me when Jason Todd shows up. I'm like, okay. So there were things in this series that kept me involved and interested. And, I almost forgot. Can I just say that I think that this theme song to this show gets me pumped up every time I want to watch? It's like the most aggressive theme song I've ever heard. And every time I start an episode, I'm like, let's get this shit going. Here we go.
I'll give you that. The music was pretty good. The heavy bass drum.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really good.
Just bringing you in and getting you ready. But, I understand everybody else's concerns, and everybody's different, so I have no problem with that. I enjoyed it. I had a good time. And, whatever else we're going to get into, specifics wise, I can't wait to talk about some of the characters, some of the events that happened. So,
well, let's go ahead and do that right now. Let's look at our main cast here. What did you guys think of Brenton Thwaites as Dick Grayson, a.k.a. Robin? I'll let you go first there, Alexis. What did you think of the guy, our leader here, for which almost the entire series rests on, and if he breaks, the whole thing kind of falls apart? What did you think of Robin?
Well, when I first saw the cast reveal and pictures of him in the costume, I thought it was a pretty good choice. He definitely looked the part. I mean, it's a hell of a lot better than him playing Orlando Bloom's son in the last Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
Is that who that was?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, I actually, I thought as far as the lead goes, he had he had plenty of charisma. I thought he looked the part. I kind of goofed on the costume a little bit, but the costume looks pretty authentic. I think I've always had a problem though with outside of Damian Wayne and his entry into the Teen Titans. I always had sort of an issue with Robin leading that group, because here you have a bunch of heavy hitters, with actual powers, and then there's this, kid running around, and like it made more sense when he was Nightwing. It always looked kind of goofy when he was Robin. But in the comic books, I was kind
of hoping that he would act before the end of the season. He would don the Nightwing or make at least a name drop to Nightwing.
That's where I thought this was going, and it may still be going there. But I don't want to jump too far ahead because I really want to talk about that ending. But that's where I thought this was going initially, was when he burned the Robin costume, and as a way of signifying, I have to divorce myself from this former path and start something new, something meaningful to me, something closer to my own heart. I thought, okay, well, if he's going to continue to be a vigilante, then here we go, Nightwing, let's do this.
Yeah.
And I was really excited for it. And then everyone take a drink. I'm going to make a wrestling reference. This is let me tell you a quick story, Alexis, because you're not a wrestling fan, right? And you certainly didn't watch any of Total Nonstop Action, I'm assuming.
Not really. Most of the gaps were filled in by Sean Comer.
So once upon a time, there was a feud between Bobby Roode and Cowboy James Storm, and this feud went on and on and on, and they continually built up James Storm, and they got to the point where James Storm was wrestling Bobby Roode for the title, and they had all but they'd done everything they could to set up the crowning of James Storm as the TNA World Heavyweight Champion. The crowd was ready for it. The world was ready for it. They were all, everyone knew it was going to happen, but it didn't matter. It was like Mick Foley winning the title. We all knew it was going to happen because it was a tape show, but it didn't matter because we were so happy that this guy was finally getting everything that he deserved. It was the hero's moment. It was the moment we were all waiting for. And swerve, brah! They fucking took it away because they didn't want to give the audience something they expected. They wanted to do something unexpected. And it deflated the entire crowd, and quite frankly, I don't think TNA ever recovered from that moment. And that's kind of how I felt with, watching the show, where it's like, they built up to him becoming Nightwing, and then Swerve Bra, he becomes the doorway to the darkness. And we're into possibly season 2. Well, now definitely season 2. But the time that they shot the thing, they weren't quite sure they were getting a season 2. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wait, why? And to me, that just sort of deflates the narrative and the viewing experience to me. It's like, sometimes just fucking crown the guy already. That's what we're waiting for. They pulled this shit with Game of Thrones, by the way. I may throw something at my television. I just want to put that out there.
Oh no!
I'll give you that. If Daenerys walks to the throne and they do how did you call it? A swerve, bro, like that.
Oh, that's great.
It's gonna end up being what's her face? Oh gosh.
What is her name?
Huh?
What's her name?
I'll never forget what's her name. No, they're gonna swerve, brah, and it's and the winner of Game of Thrones is gonna be the one bitch we don't want to win the thing. You know who I'm talking about. The one sleeping with her brother.
I don't, but I'm sure Alexis does.
Cersei.
Yeah, Cersei. That's gonna be the one. Oh. See how that makes you feel? That's what I'm talking about. That feeling.
Let's face it, if Cersei wins in the finale of Game of Thrones, there's going to be rioting in the streets.
That's what I'm trying to tell you, okay? So, we want to see Daenerys win, we want to see James Storm win the title, and God damn it, we want to see Nightwing. Give us what we want, Hollywood.
Now, Mark, I'm going to just step in here and kind of remind you about pacing, okay? And now, granted, I'm not Mr. DC, I'm not Mr. Teen Titans, but anytime I remember seeing the Teen Titans running around, Nightwing wasn't at the helm. It was always Robin.
Not always.
Not always? Was Nightwing part of the Teen Titans at one time?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So I'm just saying, we probably want to keep it as close as we can, although, they'll take liberties if they can. But I'm wondering if that's why they didn't do that. It's because, we've got to have Robin in some shape or form. And maybe we can do this journey.
They spent the entire fucking series, okay, with him wanting to divorce himself from the Robin entity and furthermore Batman.
Okay.
And for the record, even if he didn't become Nightwing, I would at least hope that we would see the Titans as a team coming together at the end. And I think that's what disappointed me the most about that ending. The fact is that that's what we wanted. We were promised Titans as a team, and we got that for maybe 2 episodes, if that?
I was going to say 1 episode, the one where they fight the nuclear family, and that's it.
Yeah, pretty much. I just felt like this again. I feel like they were teasing and not giving us enough of what they could go in either direction.
Like if this show had been called Raven, like it makes more sense.
That's So Raven?
Yeah, that's.
Oh God.
DC presents That's So Raven.
I'm pretty sure that exists on DeviantArt somewhere.
But I mean, telling Raven's story. And this ending the way that it does makes more sense. This to me wasn't about the Titans. This was about Raven.
Yeah, dog agrees.
Yes, thank you, Eddie.
Yep, the corgi agrees.
But we were talking about the actual the actual actor. Jesse, real quick, and then we'll get to Pimp Starfire. What did you think of Brenton Thwaites?
Oh, I can tell you real quick. I enjoyed it. I didn't have any complaints. He did a fine job. I felt his angst and his need to try and get over the stigma of being the boy wonder. And he portrayed that fine. I think there were times where I was like, okay, I can't wait for him to just let out and be on his own. But that being said, if that's the point they were trying to get across, he did a fantastic job.
All right. So let's talk about Anna Diop as Corey Anders / Starfire. Did we ever learn why she was where we found her at the top of the show? Because I know there were some details that I missed for one reason or another. So, Jesse, just real quick.
One reason or another, or / napping. Okay.
I was trying to be subtle. But, I mean, did we ever figure out how she ended up where she did with Konstantin Kovar? Or I know that we learn over the course of time that Raven is responsible for the destruction of Earth and Tamarin, and so she came to Earth to find Raven to destroy her before she had the chance. I got all that. I was awake for that much. Okay. But do we know why she lost her memory and she ended up where she was?
No, I had to fill in some headcanon for myself. I just thought, okay, well, she lost her memory and became involved as, a love interest for this guy. And then,
which is why she stalled up as a whore.
I don't know if that is never even specified as if that's her occupation, but I understand. She just looks like she's either that or
a painted tart.
She's going to the club. It's one of those nights. But that's the only thing I could guess. I was just like, I originally thought, like, okay, Corey's not an actual person. Like, this consciousness got beamed down into somebody's body. But no, obviously she's in the ship before she lands. And then how she becomes human, or if she's human, I assume she's human-like when she lands. And then she forgets everything, becomes involved with that dude, and then slowly begins to remember everything, and then incinerates her previous lover. As to how we got there, I don't know.
You and I just read the Marv Wolfman take
George
on
Perez.
And George Perez take on the Teen Titans.
Yeah.
Starfire was a certain way. Do you think they in any way captured that characterization in this particular iteration?
Good question, because really there are a lot of... I think if you were going to pick a character out of the 4 that we got for the Titans, she's definitely the furthest from what I think we got in that iteration.
At no point does she stand in front of Robin and say, "I'm glad you came, Dick."
No, she does not. Although that might have happened off camera. You never know. So, a deleted scene. So, there's times where... the whole alien background, okay, that's pretty faithful. The whole ship thing, I saw that, in the comic. But they didn't do the whole, alien outside of Earth kind of fish out of water story. Right. Other than her just dealing with the fact that she's trying to figure out where she came from. So, I mean, she's probably the furthest from what we see in the actual comic. She has green eyes, and she has fire powers. So that's pretty close. That's actually what it is. But
Starfire doesn't really have fire power. She can fire star bolts, which I've always seen characterized as green. I always thought it was kind of like a plasma bolt kind of thing.
That's after you saying that. I remember in the book, the 8 issues that we read, that's what I think Donna Troy was calling them. She was calling them star bolts. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I don't remember her catching anything on fire in those first 8 issues. Did she, Mark? She didn't, did she?
You know what she also didn't do? She didn't deep throat somebody to learn English.
I almost said that, but I didn't want to take away your thunder, sir.
I'm just, I feel like in the writer's room, they put up a picture of Starfire from the comics, and they were like, no, there's no way this works in a real live television show. Let's change it. Okay. And I don't feel like... Anna, let me go ahead and give credit to poor Miss Anna Diop, who I believe has abandoned Twitter.
Everybody should.
Yes, everybody should. Just delete your Twitter accounts, faggots.
You know what? I'm on Twitter under protest.
Anna Diop as an actress, given what she's given to work with, I mean, it's not her fault they wrote her the way they did it. It's not her fault they drew her badly. No, they gave her the material they gave her, and she did the best job she could with it. I don't believe she gives a weak performance. I think she's just fine. I think she's a perfectly adequate actress in the role that she's given. I think the role that she was given was a very shitty written role.
I was not completely displeased with what she did. I wasn't invested a whole lot into her story. Of course, it was, really when things pick up is when she realizes she has to kill Raven.
Yep.
That's when I was like, okay, here we go. But
for 5 minutes.
Yeah. The rest of the story as we lead up to it is like, okay, she sees flashbacks. Wonderful. She's got powers. Wonderful. But again, it wasn't anything offensive to me. It was just that it wasn't as interesting as the rest of everything that was going on around her.
I'm going to give you the last word on Miss Anna Diop as Starfire. Alexis, anything you want to bring up or add to the conversation?
I just got to ask. I was willing to deal with the purple party dress and everything when we first see her. It's clear that she was dressing seductively. I assumed she was just trying to get information on Rachel. I don't know. I'm guessing the criminal had dealings with the Trigon cult. That's all I could put together. And I'm starting going, okay, fine, maybe there's a reason she's dressed like that. Where did she get the other two purple outfits in the show? They go to Bruce Wayne's safe house, and all of a sudden she's changed into a flashy purple pantsuit. I'm going, where did she get that?
Wait till we talk the Runaways and we try to figure out how one of the characters, even though they've run away and they're currently homeless, continues to do makeup every other day.
Can't wait. As for where she got the purple pantsuit, well, if she got it from Bruce Wayne, then clearly it was originally the Joker's.
Oh. Headcanon, ladies and gentlemen. Headcanon.
She's wearing the Joker's outfit. All right, let's talk about Teagan Croft as Rachel Roth, a.k.a. Raven. I mean, I thought the actress herself, she's the other one where if she's not working, the whole series, I think, doesn't work. This is a character who clearly they were like, let's not do too much with her in the first season, even though the whole thing is about her. Let's kind of reserve how powerful she is and the kind of things she can do for, if we get a second season, for that. By the way, that's my biggest complaint about Titans. This whole thing felt like a tease for a second season, which they didn't know they were. I mean, I don't know if you know the history of this, but this was supposed to be on TNT originally, and it just got stuck in production hell for a while. And then when they decided to do this DC streaming service, they got it out of mothballs, finished it up, and said, okay, we're going to need original content to get people to buy, to shell out the $10 for this.
First of all, somebody actually still watches TNT?
I hear there's probably at least 5 medical dramas on there and maybe a Law and Order episode.
Yeah, maybe.
And secondly, this is something that DC really does have a problem with. They try to instead of focusing on what they have right now, they try way too hard to plant the seeds for what's going to come in the future. We saw that with Titans. We saw that with Batman v Superman in the Justice League movie. They seem too concerned about starting a franchise than they do about actually telling a concrete story.
Yeah. I mean, credit where credit's due. Most of the Greg Berlanti shows do a really good job of stretching things out over the course of 22 episodes and not giving away the entire farm to where you go to the second season and you don't have anything to work with. I don't really see that as a problem with any of the shows that that I watch. I mean, Supergirl has had a new threat that they've had to deal. I've never felt watching Supergirl, The Flash, or Legends or Arrow that by the end of it, I'm like, well, where are they going to go next? They're out of people. And the Arrow, has done a great job of killing of doing away with almost every one of Batman's rogues gallery, with the exception of the main four. But I mean, he's had the Huntress on that show. They've had Deathstroke. They've had Brother Blood, the Merlin.
Oh, wow.
They've had a lot of characters, both from the Batman rogues galleries and Arrows, and yet they continue to dig into some of the lesser known characters and do fresh stories. I mean, for the last two seasons, the current season, the previous season, the main bad was someone called the Dragon, which was from a 70s comic. So, like I said, they've done a great job of saying, hey, this is what we're working with for this season. It's good enough to give us 22 episodes. We'll sprinkle in some other stuff, and it's going to be fine. And then and then if there is another season after this, there's more places we can go. Whereas this doesn't feel that way. This feels like they were purposely holding back, but because they knew they were going to get more seasons at some point. So, this kind of goes back to what we were saying before about not taking things far enough. This all just feels like tease. The finale in episode 11 really should have been a mid-season finale instead of a season finale. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And yet they chose one of the most powerful villains to go up against, Trigon. I mean, Trigon is the ultimate definition of evil, literally, in the comics. Thank you for your contributing squeak there.
What I love about that is you're saying the ultimate evil in the background and going, wah,
Squeak, squeak.
I gave him a toy stuffed shark with a squeaker in it. He loves it.
Oh, baby shark, do. Sorry.
No. Negative.
But no, I don't know. In the animated series, Trigon was introduced. Well, he was introduced. We saw him briefly in the first season, but he wasn't introduced as a antagonist until the fourth season. They fought Deathstroke, they fought Terra, they fought Brother Blood, and then they fought Trigon. I'm starting going, well, if you're introducing Trigon this early, where do you go from this?
I don't think that's a problem. I mean, I think if you're telling Rachel's story, you kind of need to deal with Trigon, and they've only just begun. I mean, they've barely touched the surface of dealing with him. I mean, in the series of Teen Titans that we just read, I think they did away with Trigon in 3 issues.
Yeah, right into the butthole of space, and so he's gone. According to, at the end of that, apparently he comes back though. So as they always do.
In the Justice League versus Teen Titans, I believe they also deal with Trigon. And by the end of it, Trigon's gone, and she's kind of free to roam about the cabin. So I'm not as worried about that as such. I just, I keep going back to they spent 11 episodes, and she barely makes any progress as a character. I think that's my biggest issue. I mean, Teagan Croft, as an actress, did the best with what she was given, but as a character, I just don't feel like there was much movement with her. They spent the one who has anywhere near an arc, and we're talking, by comparison, not an actual solid arc, is Robin. Everybody else is kind of. Is there anyone who's significant? Yeah, is there anyone who's significantly different by the end of that series than they were from the beginning?
Not really. I'm switching rooms to get away from the squeak.
Go ahead.
I was going to say not really. I mean, maybe Gar, who's dealing with the fact that, he's an innocent kid who ends up taking a life accidentally. He's kind of trying to deal with that, but that's not huge leaps and bounds. Nothing like with what Dick's going through. So, as her name's Teagan Croft, you said?
Yeah.
As for her performance, there wasn't anything in there that I thought was horrible. I will tell you that she probably has some of the scariest scenes throughout this series, some of the stuff that'll make you jump, and then she also has some of the sweetest scenes between her and Gar, which is, again, if we're going to call her emo, well, she can have that crown of evoking the most emotion throughout this series, in my opinion, aside from Hawk and Dove, which that touched my heart. But I imagine we might talk about that here in a second.
I have some thoughts on Hawk and Dove, by the way. You're not going to like them. Just warning.
Fuck you, Rattledge.
All right.
I didn't say that.
And
that was all Alexis.
But no, you're right. We don't know enough about Rachel Raven's past before this whole thing starts happening to her. We don't know about what she's interested in, what she grew up with. All we know is that her adopted mother has crosses hanging all over her door and is apparently afraid of her, but we don't really know that much else about her. I kind of feel like DC keeps falling into the trap of they start writing their material and assuming that people who watch it have read the comics.
Right.
I really, you get that a lot, especially again in their movies. I really felt that in the Suicide Squad movie, that everything is written very lazily. It's like, well, we don't have to explain this. The audience knows what we're talking about. We don't have to go into detail.
Which is the worst kind of writing.
Oh, no question. And I really felt like we got a lot of that in Titans, especially, again, with Dick and Raven. Very much so the writers going, oh, we don't need to explain this. We don't need to go into the characters. The audience knows who these people are. Yeah.
That's kind of writing 101. Don't assume your audience knows anything. Rule number 2, books are for burning. Go ahead, Jesse.
I was just going to say, I think one of my favorite aspects about that character is really early on in the season, where a lot of times you're thinking of her as a victim, and obviously she's very frightened with what's going on.
Hey, Jesse, is she just another victim?
I did not see Harvey Keitel, nor did I see.
Did she walk into a living hell? That's what I want to
know. So anyway, but no, she's captured by that like thug or whatever, and I don't know if he's a follower of Trigon or whatever he's trying to do. And you're thinking, oh man, Dick Grayson's got to save her, and then her soul self, which I don't think that's called that at all throughout here, but we learned that, or I'm using that term from the comic book, takes over and basically liquefies that dude's insides. All right, she went from victim to taking care of business real quick. And that was probably one of the first oh shit moments for me throughout this season, was that right there.
All right, lastly and leastly is Ryan Potter as Garfield Logan Beast Boy.
Boy.
He was there. The actor was there. They I guess as they're looking at who was in the Teen Titans, they're like, well, we've already got a Wally West. He's on The Flash. And we've already got a Cyborg. He's in the movie, so fuck, who we got left? Well, we got Beast Boy.
Cyborg's actually going to be in the Doom Patrol TV series.
Yes, that as well. I just, I don't have a whole lot to say here. I want to echo Alexis' sentiment about, they just kept making him a tiger. Like, come on, he couldn't be a snake at some point, or something else. It was always a tiger. I've seen the special effects in Supergirl and The Flash. You could have made him something else every once in a while. So just a quick...
I will admit, I did like the actor's actually the kid who did the voice of Hiro Hamada in Big Hero 6. And,
okay.
And I do like him. He's a good actor. I like the kid. So.
Jesse, anything on this one? Because if not, I want to kind of move on to some other stuff here and then start to close out.
Now, Mark Rattledge, you're 40 years old at least,
43.
Just like I am, and you're a 40-year-old male. Okay, you have a wife, you have children.
Older than 40.
All right. Now listen, one of the things that lit up TV time was the relationship between Garfield and Raven. Okay, Beast Boy and Raven. But I'll tell you right now, the women love this guy. All right, there was nothing but posts about his smile throughout all of the TV time stuff. So I guess if there's one thing that Beast Boy's got going for him, there are a lot of ladies, and I'm sure there's a lot of the male population as well, that are quite smitten with the looks of this young fellow. So
I'll go ahead and admit it. He's a little young. I'm in my mid-30s. He's a little young for me, but he is a very good-looking man. I can see the fangirls going,
So, and I didn't have any, again, no problem with him and his portrayal. Like I said, most likely there were shippers out there just wanting to see Raven and him get together. And, I think that the aspect of him having to deal with the fact that he killed somebody, that's actually mentioned there before that all goes down, where he's rescuing Raven, that he had never killed anybody. He never even bit anybody as the tiger. And he actually saves Raven and kills somebody, and he's kind of having to deal with that towards the end of the series. That's about the most interesting thing that kind of really happens to him. So other than that, and the humor that he brings, because there's a lot of youthful humor that he brings, especially when he finds out Dick Grayson is Robin, and he's like, "Can I be a Robin?" And so I was like, I did enjoy that much of it. So, yeah. But yes, we can move on.
I just want to bring up a couple of the reoccurring characters, and then I want to talk about the ending, and then I think we're done for the night, if everyone's okay with that. I want to talk, but before I do this, let's talk about Batman for just a moment. Okay, so the whole origin of Batman is you have this guy, and he realizes that walking the streets of Gotham, punching ne'er-do-wells in the face is the wrong way to go to clean up Gotham. He adopts this motif, this mask, the Batman. Now he already knows how to hide in the shadows, but the whole concept of Batman helps in that effect. He realizes that criminals are a cowardly lot, and that if he disguises himself as this beast that stalks the night, he can use fear as an ally. So it makes it to a degree, if you're going to be a vigilante, a night creature who stalks the shadows makes sense. You mind telling me what is the point of the two pigeons calling themselves Hawk and Dove and what they're all about? Well, I looked at those costumes and I'm like, as much as I'm a big fan of use the authentic costumes from the comics, this was one of those examples where I'm like, nope, this doesn't work, scratch it. They looked ridiculous. And neither one of them have any powers. They're just people. Honestly, if somebody approached me and was like, I'm dressed as a pigeon, and I'm gonna fight you, and I'm gonna stop you, drug dealer, I don't know how I couldn't stop myself from laughing so hard and then shooting them in the head. So I say all that, Jesse, because I know how much you love the Hawk and Dove characters. I thought they were the most asinine thing in the show, and didn't understand why we spent this much time with them. Jesse, your rebuttal.
Okay, well...
You're supposed to say, okay, fuckface. Let me tell you what for.
Well, they immediately address exactly what you're saying right at the beginning of when you're first introduced to these characters. I mean, one of the, they got Hawk hanging there by his wrists, and one of the guys is like, who the fuck is this guy? What is he supposed to be? They take that exact sentiment and address it right up front and in your face. And then what happens to the bad guys, Mark Radlich? What happens to you who criticize the Hawk and the Dove? You get your ass whipped. That's what happens.
I fell asleep.
Of course you did.
So ass whipped, you get your junk cut off.
Yeah. Oh man. And granted, they did get a little bit of an assist from Dick Grayson as Robin. But yeah, there was. I really. I come out of that episode, I don't know much about Hawk and Dove. I said this before. I don't know much anything outside of Armageddon 2001.
Let me just stop you.
Go for it.
When Jimmy Olsen and Supergirl decided that it was not enough to just take pictures and be supportive of Supergirl, that he had to take to the streets. He had, whoever the character was, I can't remember the name, build him a suit, which was made of armor, and he got a shield, and he got a helmet, because he was a human with no powers, and he needed to protect himself from the danger of the streets. What is protecting them in those ridiculous chicken outfits that they're wearing?
I'm certain that they have armor or some type of armor built-in stuff in that.
They're
at least that was my
wearing
assumption.
fetish gear. That's fetish gear, sir.
Whatever, man. Whatever.
Okay. They're paying homage to the good feathers. That's what they're doing.
The good feathers. I don't even want to ask. Don't ask. Don't ask.
Alexis knows what I'm talking about.
Never ask.
The God Pigeon says, "Go fuck yourself."
I have to ask for an explanation now. What the fuck? Because there's somebody out there that's listening to this going, what are they talking about? So I'll be that guy.
Do you ever watch the Animaniacs?
Yes.
The God
Okay,
Pigeons.
so this is the Animaniacs bit.
Animaniacs segment.
Yes.
Got it. All right.
It was a parody of the Goodfellas, but they were pigeons.
Very good.
Complete with the God Pigeon. Obviously, a giant fat pigeon mumbled everything he said and always had to have an interpreter nearby explain what he said.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
All right, so explain why we needed to have these two in their fetish gear.
Well, all right. I guess the only thing that I could say is that they wanted to bring something in from the DC universe, and this may be the only thing that they could get a hold of to bring them in. Now, I'm not a big enough fan of Hawk and Dove to say, okay, well, these guys were so faithful to who they're based off of. Now, as to why they needed them, I don't know. I found it a nice little respite from the story that we were having. That whole episode was Dick bringing Raven to him and planning to leave her there with them in the care of Dove specifically. I don't think he trusts Hank too much, but he knew Dove would probably take care of Raven. And so there's you go. You know, that's the only thing that I can think of is that they were a necessary evil in order to try and get Raven off of Dick's back, I guess you'd say. But I still love the portrayal of the characters. I came out of that episode going, I am a fan of Hawk. If there's anything
the
that you remember,
drug-using ex-football player who was sexually abused,
who also once played Aquaman on Smallville.
That was that guy?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So, Mark, I'm a big fan. I like his character. I think his character has depth. Okay? Shut up. I think his character has depth. I think his character, he's the Punisher of this series.
There it is. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
You finally said it.
Street level starch says it right now.
Except that you know the difference? The Punisher's wearing armor, and all he does is paint a skull on his chest. He isn't walking around in a chicken suit.
Guess what, Mark? You are going to walk up to Hawk, on the street, and you're going to think he's a joke, and then he's going to whip you. That is the danger.
With his feathers? He's gonna wing me. Okay, got it.
Hawk and Dove, my two favorite characters. Well, I'd say Hawk definitely. Dove, I mean, her arc, especially towards that second episode that they have, where we looked at the past and how they came to be. That was, that was something else.
See, that's the thing, is that was actually my favorite episode of this first season. I thought that episode was so well done. Mm-hmm. You get to know these characters. You understand them. You know why they do what they do. It really was the best episode, and it didn't focus on any of the main characters.
And you question why they weren't shot the first time they tried to do their thing in the street.
I wish you would have fell asleep for those episodes. I really wish you would have.
Oh God! Let me tell you the amount of times I was out there selling drugs and I got beat up by a ballerina in a chicken suit. Let me tell you.
Oh, like you guys didn't enjoy the scene where the ballerina takes her clothes off. I'm straight as hell, and even I know she's hot.
Look, I didn't say that at all. Listen, if she's, I'm fine with her, in all of that. But I'm sorry. For the first episode, the second episode of the entire series, and we're already into Hawk and Dove, and I'm like, no, this is dumb. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, sir, didn't buy it.
Okay.
Anything else on Hawk and Dove?
I'm trying to think if there were. No, I mean, like I said, I enjoyed it. I mean, Alexis, you said you really enjoyed that second part of it.
I just didn't get why there was the forced shipping between Dick and Dawn. Again, she's gorgeous, and I don't mind them, mentioning maybe that he and Dawn had a tryst in the past or something. It's like, okay, there's a little bit of something there, sure. But then in that final episode, his fantasy is that they're married and she's pregnant with the second kid. I'm like, really? that's where you're going with this?
Well, hang on. We've been building up to it all episode here, but I want to get there. I'm going to open it up to you guys as far as the Nuclear Family or the Doom Patrol or any other or Jason Todd or any,
Jason fucking Todd.
Let's talk about Jason Todd real quick. I liked the kid who played him, Curran Walters. I liked his portrayal. I thought, I thought as creating a Robin character who the fans of the comics will want to murder in cold blood.
Yes. Oh, I felt so much of that. God.
I thought he did a great job of channeling, hey, how can I be the biggest bag of dicks? How can I make an entire audience of people want to murder me in cold blood? I thought he did a great job of creating an absolute dick of a character in Jason Todd. This character I enjoyed. This character made sense to me.
I agree. He come in there and he made me... immediately I was like, okay, this kid... what a douche. And then, as we go through that kind of 2-episode arc that he had, where, they're kind of fighting side by side, but it's almost like he's fucking rubbing it in Dick Grayson's face.
Mm-hmm.
That, oh yeah, Batman lets me drive the Batmobile. Oh yeah, the locks have been changed. Oh geez. Every other fucking thing out of his mouth was just a way to put Dick Grayson down on the ground. And then at the very end, when they have those run-in with the cops, that's the thing that puts him over. Mm-hmm. That's the thing that makes him fucking heel A1 material on this show, where he starts fucking breaking backs of the fucking cops. Our good friend Al Sedano, I immediately sent him a message after that. I was like, dude, I have never hated Jason Todd more than right now. He is.
And now and now you understand why people voted for a death in the family.
Give me the phone. I will vote right now. End him.
Kill him again.
Life. Kill him again. But no, I mean, for the good thing about that is that is exactly how you should feel about Jason Todd. So I think as far as characters on here, yeah, I liked Hawk. I hated Jason Todd, and not because he did a poor job of adding anything to the story. He made me feel what I'm supposed to feel about Jason Todd. This shitty version of Robin.
Exactly. That's who Jason Todd was. He was a criminal who was picked off the streets, and there is a reason that the fans did in fact vote for him to be killed off. Now, let's face it, we got Red Hood out of it, and I am personally a pretty big Red Hood fan, although maybe that's just more on me. Under the Red Hood fan animated movie, Dear God, Give Me More Jensen Ackles.
Okay.
Okay.
I admit it. I'm a woman, and I want to hear Jensen Ackles voice or play Red Hood.
Look, I enjoyed Under the Red Hood too. I just was wondering if there was a second part to that sentence. Okay.
No, I just figured quit while I was ahead.
Gotcha. All right. Anything on the Nuclear Family, real quick, Jesse?
Oh, they were odd. They were something that was right out of. It just made it was like right out of a Norman Rockwell painting, and then. Had
you ever read anything with the Nuclear Family in it before? Because I had no idea who they were.
Me either. I have no clue. I didn't know if they existed.
I'm pretty sure the Nuclear Family were like androids in the comics.
So, just a real quick break. My son came down here, handed me his tablet, and told me to type in inappropriate on YouTube. Guess what I'm not doing? Not typing that in. Why he's asking me to do that, I have no idea. That's my 4-year-old, ladies and gentlemen.
Did you give him his bread and water and send him back to his cell?
Oh, he's 5 years old. Do you want your bread? Do you want your bread? You good? Yeah, he says yes. Sorry, I had to interrupt. If the dogs can interrupt, I guess Colton can too. But
do the dogs
go
need
ahead,
bread?
Sorry.
All
the
right.
dogs got the crust earlier. They've had enough bread.
I'll be right back, ladies and gents.
All right.
The most sidetracked podcast I think we've ever done.
Do you want to talk a little bit any more about the Doom Patrol?
Like I said, I actually am interested in the Doom Patrol series. I like the casting for it. I like what they did. I love the design of Robot Man. It's corny as hell. My dog just sneezed on me. Excuse me. I like Matt Bomber as Negative Man. Again, I don't really know what they were trying to imply with Rita's powers. I mean, she's Elastigirl. She can grow to monumental sizes. She can't stretch out her body like the Incredibles Elastigirl. So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead and finish.
So, like, I have no idea where they were going with that, but I am intrigued with it. I just kind of, I don't know, I kind of like it. And I have to admit, I did like the scene with Beast Boy and the corny joke to Robot Man, because, you know, that was such a huge part of the animated series. That Beast Boy always had the corniest jokes in the world. And I loved he just dropped that one, and Robot Man actually kind of laughed at it. I thought that was a nice touch.
So I was just kind of flipping through the Wikipedia pages we were doing this, and you know, I had such an issue, and I want to talk about it now. We're finally here about how the series ends. Now, initially, the series was supposed to be 12 episodes, but I guess when they knew they were coming back for a second series, they took episode 12 and decided that would be the premiere of the second season, which now makes that ending make a little bit more sense. Regardless of whether or not they knew they were getting a second season or not. I don't know if you got that, Jesse. The 11th episode was made the season finale after the fact.
Oh, okay.
And that the 12th episode got moved to be the season premiere of season 2. So let's talk about this ending. So they finally, they are tricked, they are hornswoggled, they are bamboozled into unearthing.
Meckledorfed.
Yes.
Mentalflixed.
They are tricked into bringing Trigon into this world. This is what it's all been leading up to: is releasing Trigon so that he may devour the world and go on about his business. And then there's a sudden shift between episode 10 and 11. Episode 11 doesn't pick up where 10 left off. It picks up with, it's supposed to be 5 years in the future. Dick Grayson has given up the vigilante life. He has made Dove his wife, and they've given up the chicken suit. They have a child with one on the way. And
Robin and Dove. Two birds in a tree. Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, it's kind of, I was saying, when my husband came down when I was watching this, he was like, so who's that? And I go, it's Hawk and Dove. He's like, so wait, Robin, Raven, Hawk, Dove. How many bird superheroes are there?
Hawkman, Hawkeye, Hawk your mom. So anyway.
Hawk up your ass.
Hawk up your ass. Hawk out the window. All right, so, and our story picks up where, you know, he's living the life. You know, he's a Los Angeles County police detective, and he's taking care of his family, and he's taking care of business, and suddenly his perfect Norman Rockwell-esque world is rocked when a crippled Jason Todd shows up and says, hey, you better come back to Gotham. Batman has lost his mind. He's determined to kill the Joker. The Joker has killed, the Joker had killed Commissioner Gordon. And so Batman has had, enough is enough. It's time for a change. Take a drink. And he's going to kill the Joker. So, you know, and you have to go back and stop him. And so he does. We find out that Beast Boy and Raven have gone off to college, and everything is fine there. Coriander has adopted an earthling lifestyle and become a FBI agent. This all leads to Batman does in fact succeed in killing the Joker and everybody else that gets in his way. He kills all the patients and all the staff at Arkham Asylum. So Dick
Easter egg dropped all the Easter eggs.
Yeah.
And then Dick gives up the identity of Batman. He tells the authorities that it's Bruce Wayne. They assault Wayne Manor, Batman proceeds to destroy the Gotham Police Department, but they set off an explosion. He is buried under rubble, and Dick finishes him off by stepping on his throat, which we then find out was all a fantasy, and that he, in fact, after an entire season of wrestling with his demons in the darkness wins. He has embraced these things. Other than I was utterly confused with how we went from episode 10 to episode 11 until the very end. And I was like, oh, you got me, you sons of bitches. I loved this ending. I really did. I think now that I know that this wasn't meant to be the end of the season, that this was that there was one more episode to go, which I'm sure solves the problem. Now that I know that, I'm a little bit more accepting of it. But I love the idea of him in his own like personal paradise, and him being tempted, and then essentially it's the Frodo test. You are given a choice and you fail utterly to do the right thing, which is the story of the story of Frodo in Lord of the Rings, right? He after all of this, wrestling and fighting and going about, he finally gets to the end of Mount Doom. He's standing right above the lava, and he refuses to throw the wing away. He fails the test. So does Dick. Dick fails the test, and he embraces the evil. I thought it was great. I really enjoyed that episode. It's probably my favorite episode of the entire season. Not to mention there was nobody in a chicken suit. Jesse?
Well, I mean,
hey, Jesse, what's it like doing podcasts with Rattledge? I have an ulcer at the end of every one.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah, I kind of get it. I don't know. There was a lot of people that really weren't impressed with this finale. They take that Fantasyland aspect. He's got to go through all this, and I kind of knew what was going on immediately. Every time we had that shimmer and something else would pop up, all of a sudden the lights would go out, and I was like, okay, well, somebody's playing with his mind, and it was okay as far as facing Batman and going into the darkness. That's all going on in his head. We actually kind of get allusions to that, don't we? Like a few episodes earlier, where they're stuck in the lab, and he kind of does a few things where he's kind of hallucinating, and again, he's got those. That's like his biggest fear, is giving into this cold-blooded killer, and he does it at the end. He just steps on Batman and kills him right there. So, and he mentions throughout that whole episode, there's a line that Batman wouldn't cross. There's a line that he wouldn't cross, and of course, then we find out that Batman's crossing this line pretty frequently now, to where he's killing everybody and innocent civilians and cops and all this other stuff. And Dick always seems like he wanted to be above that. Even though he's been pretty brutal up until then, he seemed like he was just enough above that to where he wasn't going to kill somebody. And then when he does, of course, Trigon's now got his hooks right in to the soul of Dick Grayson. Okay. I'm ready. I'm ready for season 2. I can't say that I was nonplussed, like a lot of people were saying. Like, what happened? This was underwhelming. I thought it was fine. I mean, I guess I'll turn it over to you, Alexis, because did you enjoy this finale, and what were your thoughts on it?
No.
Oh. Okay.
No, I did not enjoy the finale.
Did you need more chicken suits?
I did not need more chicken suits.
I hate you, Mark. Damn it.
No. I don't know. Again, I was really disappointed in it. I felt it didn't go too much into the
hang
is
on.
This real or is this fan?
Hang on. Can we get a Hawk and Dove series where the opening theme is Chicken Boo? What's the matter with you? Sorry.
Is that Animaniacs?
You betcha.
Yes.
Oh,
no, I'm doing these for Alexis's benefit. Go ahead. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
It's been a while since you've brought me in for an older animated series. Just FYI. No, I felt that first of all, I'm just going to say this. You made Trigon a sleek businessman in a suit. Fuck you. Sorry for that.
Hang on. We've spent this entire TV party talking about how, or at least I have, about how there's just certain things that aren't going to work, and we have CGI/budget issues. Did you? Have you seen Trigon in the Marv Wolfman George Perez Teen Titans? Where he's half deer, half demon.
I know what Trigon looks like.
So, do you really think that's going to look good in the live action, Greg Berlanti TV show?
Again, I feel like bringing him into the world like this was just a stupid idea. Again, it's if you can't go all the way, it's the Galactus in Fantastic Four argument. If you're going to do it, you might as well go ahead and go all the way, because this 1 foot into the water, 1 foot out of the water shit, it just doesn't work. Embrace
the stupid hat, or don't use Galactus at all.
Exactly. It's like, if you're going to do it, just do it the whole way. Because you're pissing off the diehard fans, and you're not making it interesting enough for the new fans.
That's not to say, listen, that's not to say that we won't see him go full-throated, demon at some point. It might just be like, hey, look, we're at the end of the season. We needed to bring him in, and so he takes corporal form for now. But maybe later on, when it's the Titans versus Trigon in a fight to the death, he'll go full animated demon.
Well, like I said, I was still just disappointed by the ending. I felt the whole "is this fantasy or is this real" was not pushed or was basically given away because, as Jesse mentioned, there was that shimmer effect, so we knew that Trigon was screwing with him. I really hated seeing Corey as an FBI agent. Again, it's similar to the whole Donna Troy is a photojournalist now. It's like, no, that's not what we want to see these characters as. And I have to admit, the post-credits scene, I'm split on, because on one side, I am glad that they're teasing Superboy. At the same time, you guys are bringing in Crypto? Wouldn't it make more sense to put Crypto on Supergirl?
Yeah, if one thing that Melissa Benoist needs is a dog.
So I had heard about this post-credit scene probably about a week before I finished the show. I completely forgot about it. It's not very memorable, other than the fact that it's somewhere in Metropolis. And then, you see some guy breaking out of a lab, which right there, I knew it was, is it Connor? Is that his name? Do you guys know?
I'm kind of blanking.
I think it's Connor.
Name was.
Yeah, so he's the clone of Superman, supposedly, becomes Superboy. But yeah, Crypto was an odd thing. So I was kind of a mixed reaction. I was like, okay, well, it'll be interesting to see. He'll be something that definitely was not in the book during the first battle there against Trigon. So if he's part of that battle, that would be, I think that'd be good. I think that'll be fun to watch. I did ask Al, I said, hey, because he was the one that was like, did you see the post-credit scene? He didn't tell me what it was. And I was like, no. So I knew he was excited about it. And I told him I would go ahead and get his comments across here about the post-credit scene. And his first thing that he...
Now, this is Al Sedano of the... of the Thanos and Adam... of the Thanos and Adam Warlock /fiction podcast.
No, it is not. It is of... He is of the Adam Warlock... Resurrections, an Adam Warlock and Thanos podcast. They are not writing love letters to each other, no matter how much Mark Radlich says it's true. But his first reaction was Crypto in big capital letters, because I asked him tonight, I said, what did you think about this, man? And he says he thinks that it was crazy and awesome that they're going to do this. He said he thought Legends went full comic book, but this is going to a new level. He also says he hopes Crypto can fly. So, I'm certain Crypto is probably going to come out and fly around. But I don't know. Is there going to be a story here that involves Crypto? Is Superboy just going to be running around with Crypto? And
yeah, it's going to be 40 minutes of them playing fetch.
Let me ask you, Alexis, was Crypto ever a part of the animated series at all?
No.
Okay.
Actually, it's interesting. Superboy was not in the original series at all. He was in the Young Justice series.
That's right, Young Justice.
That came out. I don't think Crypto was ever in that. Again, I just thought it was so weird to drop Crypto of all things.
Yeah. Well, it's just them kind of peppering things in and trying to garner some excitement. I mean, you got to think about this show it's a first of its kind on this app. It's not a first of its kind when it comes to superhero shows. No, it's definitely, it's definitely late to that game. But you got to think, cornerstone of the DC app is this show. So I assume what DC wanted to do was bring a series that was innovative and definitely different from what we have seen previously in a TV show by DC. Most of what you get TV-wise does not, it's not a representation of what we got here. So, all the CW shows feel, of course, I don't know much about Arrow, so I don't watch a whole lot of Arrow. But, I watched The Flash. I don't get this vibe from Flash. Supergirl seems like it'd be different as well. But
Supergirl seems hopeful.
So they've got, they've got to bring this series in and drop some hints as to what's to come. Try to garner some excitement so you'll continue to pay that money to keep this service around. Now, okay, Mark, I've got one question left, and the main question I want to ask both of you is: are you going to stick around for season 2?
Do I have a podcast that needs content?
Mark Rowledge is in. Alexis Hayna.
Is it a bad sign that I want to see it just so I can talk with you guys on the show? Because it's like, okay, if it's good, I'll enjoy it. If it's bad, I'll get to, rant and rave on the show. So
no,
I guess
that's perfect. That's perfect. You're participating in a discussion with us. You're either going to suffer along with us, or we're going to make fun of your suffering, one or the other. So yeah, I think that's perfectly fine. But if you didn't have a podcast to go on and talk about it, would you continue?
Probably not.
Okay. All right.
Again, I feel that the writers were too lazy in just saying, oh, well, they know. People who watch this show know what the Teen Titans are. They know who Robin is. They know all of this. We don't have to fill in any backstory. We don't have to develop any characters. So I feel like this was just another example of DC trying to cut corners and push things so that they can say that they're on the same level as the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Again.
Okay.
All right. Well, we'll all be back for Doom Patrol later this year. That starts, I believe, in February and is 11 or 12 episodes long. And, we're all interested in that. We're all going to watch that. So I'm sure we'll all come back and talk about it later this year. That brings this episode of TV Party to a close. Tomorrow night on the Metal Hammer of Doom, myself and Jesse Starcher will be reviewing the new Soilwork album, Verkleitenhaven. This Friday, myself and Sean Comer possibly could be doing an on-trial for Unbreakable. If you're wondering what happened to the on-trial for Judgment Night, Sean did not remember we had a show. So, Judgment Night, released on its own recognizance.
Judgment Night!
So we're going to move on to the next docket, and that is M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong's Unbreakable. Next week, the Source Material podcast brings you Nude Nuns with Big Guns, brought to you by Jesse Starcher. It's a fantastic movie. No? That's not what we're doing?
The Superblog team up they will not want to do anything with us ever again. Ever again. No way.
Oh, he knew I was having fun.
We brought a guy in from Newfoundland, and then we made him decide to stay in Canada for the rest of his life.
And now we get to the part of the podcast where I'm just going to shut up and sit over here in the corner.
Why have you? Do you not understand that there's an entire subsection of film called nunsploitation, and that in the nunsploitation genre there is a fantastic film, I recommend it to everybody, Nude Nuns with Big Guns. I think you should watch it. I think you should tell a friend.
You know, I actually gave a collection of exploitation films to Sean Comer as a Christmas gift years ago. Strangely, that was not amongst them.
Well, he actually knows that before Sean and I started podcasting together, I had actually just seen it, and I was telling him about it, and he was aware of the film's existence, and we thought, hey, we should talk about it at some time, and then we came up with Long Road to Ruin instead. Anyway, Penance: The Redemption of Speedball on Source Material, the 21st of January. And then Robert Winfrey, who has taken the 411 Ground and Pound radio show back to 411 Mania. It has left for good, the Rattledge and Broadcasting Network, but he has not left. He still remains to do TV parties and Damn You Hollywoods. We'll be doing a Damn You Hollywood for the third part of the Rail 177 Railroad Trilogy by M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong Glass. The Metal Hammer of Doom reviews, Papa Roach. Who do you trust? Who do you trust, Alexis? Do you trust anyone?
I'm sorry, what?
Good answer.
Excellent. On the 24th of January, Mr. Toxic Masculinity is everywhere you look. He's on a TV party tonight for Fuller House Season 4. And then he's back, and front, and up, and down. He and I, while we don't have an MMA show anymore, that doesn't mean we're not going to talk combat sports. No, sirree, Bob. We're going to do a live commentary for Thurman versus Lopez. Boxing on Fox, 8 o'clock p.m. Tune in to hear the punchy pugilist, Mr. Toxic Masculinity, and I do a live commentary for Premier Boxing. On the 28th, source material is Runaways: The Complete Volume 2. And then who's coming on Runaways Season 2 TV party tonight, Jesse? Who's been bugging me about that?
I'll be there. Mm-hmm. I don't know if anybody else is going to be on that. I know Ronnie usually is interested in anything Runaways. Chris Armstrong's going to join us for the comic book discussion on Volume 2. That's for sure. But I don't remember if anybody else is interested. So
fantastic. On January 30th, Jesse Starcher and I are going to look a pale horse named Death right in the mouth. Sal Ubiscato, formerly of Typo Negative, where Pete Steele once wrote a song on the toilet, like a man should. He's formed a band called A Pale Horse Named Death. We're going to review their latest album. And from our Canadian audience, that's the second fucking time I've done that. From our Canadian office, Andrew Graham and his lovely wife. See, we have 100% increased the amount of females on this network. There's 2.
2 of them!
They'll be on a TV party tonight to discuss The Crown Season 2. And that's all the shows that's fit to print here on the Rattledge and Broadcasting Network. If you've enjoyed our discussion of Titans and you are interested in listening to us talk about the comic book, that's in the archives. That was that dropped January 14th. So go ahead and check that out if you enjoy Nude Nuns with Big Guns.
Kick it to one of us. I think you got to give it to Alexis next.
No, I think we should just continue to have a sigh off.
No.
Alexis Hana, I believe you make shit. Go ahead and tell them what it's all about.
Yep. I was going to say, how the hell do I follow up this? Honeysuckle Rose
very carefully.
The intersection of geek and chic. We have stores on Handmade at Amazon and Etsy. We are currently in a hiatus from our Comic-Con circuit because it is winter and it is cold, and I am not driving out in winter weather. So we're using this time to restock, branch out new ideas. We're working on a couple of new pieces. That was actually why my assistant came over earlier and interrupted our bonus material, because she was bringing over some pieces for me to finish and complete, because she's awesome like that. Again, Honeysuckle Rose Creations. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and as I believe I previously mentioned, under protest, Twitter.
All right, take me home, Jesse Starcher.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you go give that Rattlich in Broadcasting Network Facebook page a like to stay up on top of all the great podcasts that we have to offer. Got a bevy of topics and things to discuss right there in our archive. And you can check our archive out on Spreaker.com. That's our home. But we're on just about any podcast platform that you can find, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, all those great things, even on Spotify. So, yeah. Hey, real quick plug for myself. I unknowingly ended up on a episode of Kapow, the Pop Cultured Podcast. I wasn't actually there, but they did a rendition of Big Brother, which it was really interesting. They ran a bunch of names and stats through some kind of a simulator where you can simulate reality TV shows and competitions, and one of which, old Seth, the Grand Poobah, is a big Brother fan. So I, along with Alf and a few – there's some really interesting characters that ended up in the house along with me. But I was there. Alf was there. Like three members of Riverdale were there. I think Cheryl Blossom, Zach and Cody.
Did Alf at some point say, "Good night, Mrs. Achmonic, wherever you are"?
Alf ended up getting, I'm just giving you a little spoiler right now, Alf ended up getting voted out somehow. But there was a very touching moment when we found out that he was unknowingly the brother of one of the previous cast members of Kapow. So interesting stuff. My good buddy Seth, he's usually the DM of some role-playing games. Well, he crafted this whole story around this simulation, and I'm not going to spoil where I ended up. But I tell you what, I had some fun. So if you get a chance, go check that out. Download that episode, give it a listen. If you like their what they put forth, give them a subscribe as well. So other than that, let's get the hell out of here, Mark Rattlich. I'm ready to go to bed.
All right, thank you for joining us on TV Party tonight. We what is it? What is our new phrase? We hope
we look forward.
Oh yes. It's no longer be well, be safe, and behave. We've turned the page on that. We're doing something different now. We look forward to irritating. No, what is it? Irritating or is it insulting? Offending.
It's offending.
Thank you for joining us on TV Party tonight here on the Rattlich and Broadcasting Network. We look forward to offending you in the future. Have a good night.